All right, thank you very much. And with that, I guess, report from the first Selectwoman. A couple things, it was just nice to attend the ribbon cutting. I know Jen attended and Al as well for the Daniel Hand tennis courts, which was really exciting to see, because that was also something that had been funded and approved last year in ARPA. And I just want to give Bill McMinn and Felicia, who worked with him on this, a lot of credit, because they got this moving very quickly. They had to get it done over the summer. And it's probably one of the fastest moving projects I've ever seen. So,
Were they motivated?
yeah. Well, anything with the schools is tough, because you've got that short window that you have to get everything done before school starts. So just want to give a shout out to them, and also, it was exciting to see. Also just attended tonight a retirement dinner for a number of our Madison Police Department officers, including Officers Baxter, Bull, DeGorsey, Martin, and Tuchel. So congratulations to them. Some of them are actually going to be still working as for the school district as SROs. So we'll still see them, but I commented they still get their summers off at least. So, but it was just good to attend that and to congratulate them. I also wanted to mention quickly, I know that we had a couple of months ago launched a pilot program with a new software that had to do with our meetings and agendas. And there's been a lot of problems with it. And so we've made the decision that we're not going to continue using it anymore. It was kind of a 4 or 5 month process. It was a product that was owned by a company that actually handles our web-based software. What is it called? Our platform for our website. And it was a new product that they had acquired. Well, it really was not ready for prime time. And we kind of learned that as we got into it. I know there was a lot of frustration by the public, by staff. And then they tried to fix some things, and they still haven't been able to fix it. They had promised us some fixes. So we said, okay, we'll give you another month or two. But so I just want to let the public aware that we're going to be going back to what we had previously been doing, but we're also going to be looking to improve that process still, because it was very cumbersome for staff, the way we used to do meetings and agendas. But at the same point, I think now they think it wasn't so bad before, because the civic clerk was really just challenging, and we didn't spend a lot of money on this. It was kind of a good month-to-month test run. Getting a lot of feedback and working with the technology team, we agreed the right decision was to kind of roll back. So that will be happening in October. So if anybody's listening who sits on a board and commission, you'll be getting an update to that on October. Right now, continue the process, do the process you're doing. There's some background work that has to happen to get us back to the old system. And then once that's completed, then we can move forward again. With a kind of a clean start, but just wanted to give that update. And we are also exploring some other new technology initiatives, including having a new online budget book, which is going to make finding financial information a lot easier for the public. So we're looking at some options there. This is becoming more widespread throughout the state of Connecticut, and we've been looking at examples in other communities. So there'll be an opportunity to do that. And we're also focusing on trying to streamline our communications. Right now, we have several different platforms that we work off of that were really kind of developed during COVID as kind of triaging situations. And now we want to step back and make it more comprehensive and streamlining it for the public. So those are all things that are kind of in process right now. So I just wanted to update people on that. So with that, any other liaison reports?
I do. So Board of Ed. So from the superintendent and the chair of Board of Ed, Seth. So they have a great start to the school year so far. The board received a presentation on academic results last week. The presentation is out on the website. Very impressive results with SAT scores in the top 10 in the state, and SBAC, which is the test for grades 3 through 8, also very strong as well. 6th grade math was #1 in the entire state.
Wow.
So kind of cool. So more to come on that, but we will continue to hear more wonderful updates from the board. That's it. End of report. That's what you say there. Remember that?
I remember. Any other updates?
No.
Nope,
Nope.
okay.
You guys are here.
I mean, the strategic plan we'll be talking a lot about, in 2 weeks draft, so that process is continuing. And I did want to mention Board of Finance, we did talk about senior tax relief, they've assembled a small working group now with staff, so, the 2 newest members got assigned, so John they were voluntold, John Rasmus and, Jude. So they'll be, working on that with town staff to come back to us in October with a proposed, revision to the ordinances, so that's moving along quickly, which is great, so. Okay, I guess moving on to item number 5, citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Hands raised.
No hands raised.
Okay, great. And there'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting too, if somebody joins us and decides they want to chime in later. All right, moving on to item number 6. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any questions, comments, concerns?
So, 2 quick things. One, thanks to Jonathan Stein for his service on the Economic Development Commission. Also, I just want to point out item D. That is, we're approving the follow through on a pre-approved expense. This is money that's already in the budget.
Right.
This is not a new out of budget.
You saw that on social media too?
I didn't, but it's one of my, it's one of my agenda peeves, right? That
Yeah.
we, whenever we're spending money or approving money
existing
that we've already
funds,
done, that we acknowledge that.
It was noted,
well,
on
from
social media.
Sarah,
Was it?
so-
People were asking the question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we bought it, it's coming off lease, and we're just buying out the lease and keeping the vehicle, so, because it's been a huge success, the motorcycle. I know we've got a lot of positive feedback, and especially during the summer months where we get very busy, especially down at the beaches, so.
Totally.
Any other comments? No? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All right, passes, great. Item number 7 is discussion of a proposed land donation by the, and I don't know how to pronounce this, Celia Estate to Bauer Park. And I want to invite up, Austin to talk about this. And we were just very grateful. This, is a piece of property adjoining, Bauer Park. And the heirs to the estate wanted to make a donation to the town, which we're very grateful for. So I'll let Austin talk about, and then I think we have like in your packet was a map. It might be good. Jacqueline, is it possible, or Austin, can you pull up the map? Just so people know what we're talking about at home.
I could do it, Austin. Is it easier? You want me to do it?
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, great. So if you want to just talk about the background here, and then, you know, what
Sure.
the thing is.
So this is thank you. This is a piece of land that's contiguous with Bauer Park. And the Bauer Park Committee visited the land last week and took a tour, and we walked around. It's a great addition to the park. So as you can see on the map here, Bauer Park proper is in the black area, and then the triangle looking piece is the property in question here. So it's 1.39 acres. And it'll be a great addition to the park and allow us to extend the boundaries a little more. The northern end, as you go up Cops Road, is an area that students used to walk on as well. So back, 15 years ago, up until today, we used to contact Miss Thelia and ask her if students can walk on that property to get to Bauer Park to do, to access the park through school activities that we hosted there. So yeah, Gloria, a very generous friend of the senior center, and thankful to her estate for thinking of the town and Bauer Park when the property became available.
And, I know that, the Bauer Park Committee and the Beach and Rec Committee met and, you know, are recommending that we move forward with accepting the donation. Was there any discussion about use? Because there's wetlands on there, right? Isn't there a pond?
There's a little pond. The use, we won't use it for, you know, activities or anything, but it's a great way to just extend the boundary of the park. And, you know, if water becomes a necessity, so in the area, kind of like where the arrow is there, those used to be the old gardens. So if things change in the future, we have access to a pond for irrigation if necessary now down in that area.
Okay.
Austin, are the donors putting any restrictions on how we use this property?
Not that I've seen, no.
And are there any structures or anything like that on the property?
No, no.
I think if we were talking like historically, I think, because she had lived across the street, right?
Correct.
And so her house, that has been sold, that parcel. So, you know, this was you know, an extra parcel that was not, you know, with her house or anything like that. So they've already separated it out. It's its own parcel.
How does that work with accepting a parcel, so to speak, by the town? Do we have to get it evaluated first through the tax office? Or?
So we've talked a little bit about this, and I think because of the value of wetlands and open space, we have to vote to accept. So our board would have to do that. We want to go through, the next motion is basically referring to planning and zoning. So
Okay.
they will then say that, yes, this is an appropriate change of use. Now it's becoming a municipal park. And then we would come back and vote to accept. We need to clarify value and look at our charter to make sure there isn't, I think this will fall below the threshold, because it's most, you know, with pond and everything, it's not, has a lot of value per se, and we can just value it as open space.
Was our threshold 250? Is that the?
You're catching me, I can't remember
I think
exactly,
I thought it was 250.
It might be, yeah, I think it was 250, but I'm trying to remember if that meant, I don't think we have to go to Board of Finance or town meeting for this, because this will definitely fall below that. So, but I'm just fuzzy. We talked about this like a few weeks ago. So the next step when it came to you, we would lay out whatever the process is and stuff for that for us.
Austin, is the idea that this would be an X by Bauer and as a land use ongoing would be the same, fall into the same category as Bauer Park?
Yeah, it would just be a part of Bauer Park going forward, as every other, as the rest of the park. It would just be one big park.
And I think maybe, you know, we need to talk to our attorney about what that motion would be to accept it. And maybe as part of that, we would, you know, state what it would be. Although I think that's what the 830G does too, because it's basically going to
Because
say.
they're changing the use.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's for change of use to municipal park, I guess. So,
Austin, do we know whether there was ever any structure or activity on this parcel?
I don't believe there was ever a structure. I don't think it's a buildable lot. To be honest with you, it's pretty much all wetlands.
I assume in our due diligence process, we'll make sure there's no prior use of this property that might have left behind something we don't want to own.
The Lockman sponsor or something.
yeah,
Yes, so I think after you all approve it, then we would go to town council and do our due diligence before moving forward.
yeah, I think we would do, yeah, title searches and all that stuff, so. But today was to talk about, you know, if the board is so, you know, inclined, we would want to move this forward in the process. And so actually in item 8, if we could move to item 8, I'm just going to change the wording in the motion. Instead of acquisition, I was going to say acceptance of a donation, because I don't want anybody to think we're writing a check for this, right?
Right.
So I just was looking at that, and I thought, because normally it would be like an acquisition, but, so moving on to item number 8 is discuss and take action to approve pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24, a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the acceptance of a donation of 1.39 acres on Cops Road, map 65, lot 1.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, and we're very grateful for this. This will be coming back to the board again as we get a lot more information on the property, but at least we can get the planning and zoning, checked off. And be very grateful to the family. So, and maybe we can figure out some way to, recognize that once we accept the donation, so. Okay, moving on to item number 8. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
Item number
Thanks,
9, discuss and take action to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the town of Madison and the Madison Host Company number 1 for the use of an emergency operations center. Okay, so this is basically the first step as we move forward with our partnership with Madison Hose on the expansion of the firehouse and in the incorporation of emergency operations center in that building. There will be a lease that comes between the town and them once the building is completed that will lay out in more detail, I think, a lot of room use things for the EOC room. But this is a kind of, we had town council draft this MOU. It's similar to what we have with the library. So we, if you recall, last year or a year and a half ago, we updated the MOU with the library. So this is kind of a similar type of thing. It's just how we're gonna work together. And just kind of lays out some ground rules. So that's why it's kind of very high level. And the lease will get a little bit more detailed later about some of those things about day-to-day operations. Any questions on the MOU in the document?
So
In the packet?
this is, it's a bit like the library project in that it's a public funded private enterprise. The library building committee was picked by the library, wasn't it? With a selectman liaison. We're looking to play a little heavier hand.
Well, because there's gonna be a town operation in the building. Because the EOC is gonna be in the building. So that's why we, it's a little different than that. Like the library, we don't actually have, an office in the library, right?
So everybody's comfortable with that?
Yeah.
That's really my question is,
That's good.
is
Yes.
that we're gonna have a heavy hand in your building.
Well, it's the extension, which is what it refers to, is the extension.
Right.
Because there's gonna be this addition of the bays and then the creation of the room on top of that. And I think they recognize that. We've had a lot of conversations about it. That's why I think the lease will give a lot more detail so that everybody understands, the comings and goings, the use of the room, that kind of stuff.
The dollar a
Proper
year
use
will
of
not be
it.
adjusted for inflation for 99 years.
This is, this has been, I know, shown to your members, but you actually don't meet till later this week, so.
Yeah, so I'll just,
Okay,
Tim Lund, representing
Sorry.
the board of directors. So the MOU has been read by our board of directors, which I'm a member of. Most of the officers, some of like past chiefs, we've gone through it. Like you said, it's high level, we're all comfortable with it, but our normal procedure is to bring it to the body, the membership, and we have a meeting Thursday night. There's no anticipation that there's anything in there that's gonna be an issue. We look forward to the new partnership that we're gonna have.
Is the approval process by your board or? by general member?
Technically, the board could approve this, but this is a very new, we've never had this type of relationship, right, with the town. We were, on our own. So now that we're gonna be different types of partners, we just feel for transparency's sake, the whole membership needs to see this
Great.
and just have, if there is feedback, we'll take it. But the anticipation is that it's gonna be okay.
Thank you.
This is probably a little out of scope of this conversation, but once everything is underway, will you be able to maintain normal operations?
Yeah, we discussed it and the chiefs are better to talk about this. Everything that happens, it should be in the addition. If there are days where we have to move trucks out of the building, we'll place them in the right areas. We'll be able to, do what we have to do.
Sam's house.
okay,
Yeah.
so I guess no other further discussion on item number 9, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, thank you. Item number 10, Discuss and take action to approve a request to move $100,000 from the capital improvement program CNRE fund fiscal year 24-25 to fiscal year 23-24 for the Emergency Operations Center owner's project manager pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Second.
And basically, because we want to get started on this, this money I think was in the next year and, we
Like the
can't.
planning funds?
Yeah, we were gonna move the planning funds forward. We can't, the grant is actually gonna be coming in October, but we can't use that from what I understand for this purpose. The grant has to go towards the construction project. So we wanted to move this forward, so we can get going on hiring the OPM for the project. So that's correct, right, Sam?
Yeah.
So this is just a procedural things to pull it forward, and then that'll come out of next year's money.
And who makes the decision about the OPM? Is that this new
That's in your
group?
agenda.
It's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had an interviewing, a selection committee, an RFP, all that stuff, so,
Awesome.
made a selection.
Great.
Any further discussion on item number 10? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, abstentions, okay, item 10 passes, great, so now you got the money. Next item on the agenda is discuss and take action to enter into a contract with Downs Construction Company in the amount of $124,192 for owner's project manager of the Town of Madison Emergency Operations Center and to authorize first selectman to sign all necessary contracts and documents.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and this was, I think you got a memo and we had process, we had 3 bidders. This was based on criteria or qualifications based, and Downs has extensive experience in firehouse, so I don't know if you want to spend a minute, but if you saw their presentation, it's very impressive. They kind of were very much differentiating themselves from some of the other people.
Okay, so we ended up getting, sent out the RFP, we got results back from Colliers, to CAP, which is a construction advocacy, I forget their last name, but anyways, they're like a husband and wife team, they're kind of small, and then Downs came in and they basically, the committee was, Travis Gulick, Greg Carroll, Peggy, Krista Bartosik, and myself.
Nice.
And Downs kind of blew us away with their vast experience and how they handle all these projects and stuff like that. So we were very comfortable, putting it forward.
Sam, was this a unanimous recommendation?
Yes, yeah.
So just maybe the obvious question, but we just moved $100,000 into the account, yet this is $124,000. So was there monies already there in the budget?
Yes, there's
For this?
20,000.
Yeah.
This year's training money.
Yeah, and this wouldn't all necessarily be spent this fiscal year.
Yeah, I understand.
But, so, and some of it is a little flexible too, because you're basically paying for time, so,
Yeah,
and-
So they in theory could.
Yeah.
come in under budget.
yeah,
it's not all going out, lump sum.
right,
And in this fiscal
Yeah,
year.
they're gonna bill us, it's probably not even gonna be this fiscal year.
yeah, so the construction probably would start to fall, no, they're talking.
Oh, we're hoping to break ground in the spring.
Yeah, they can run a spring, but then there's some time, then we'll go through that whole process, so. So, yeah, so, I mean, I think they're gonna be a great partner, and I think even though this is a small project, I think it was important that because it's a volunteer fire department, and then it's not really a town building, it was better to have like an independent, project manager for this. I think that was what everybody felt was the best route.
Yeah, they're gonna do all the grant management piece, so make sure we have all the stuff that the federal government wants, and they have experience with that before too.
Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, exciting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, great, so we will move forward on that. And then, item number 12 is discuss and take action to approve a charge for the Emergency Operations Center Building Committee.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we talked about this at the last meeting and we refined the, membership composition. I think we have people potentially identified for each of those positions, but we just weren't ready to vote on those today. But we wanted to at least get the charge finalized. I think that we just talked a little bit about composition. And I know somebody had mentioned, wanting chamber EDC or something like that. And so we actually are probably going to be recommending somebody who is a volunteer firefighter and is a member of the chamber. So that kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So, So we'll come back at the next meeting with the list of actual, because they just need to talk to everybody, make sure they're ready to sign up for this. So
Just a housekeeping question.
Yeah.
The, under governance, it says, a simple majority of 4 members. But under composition, it says that the committee will be 5 people. So
Three.
is it a simple majority of 3 or is it a minimum of 4?
No, it should be 3, because I think originally that's a good catch, so we should amend that, so I would amend the charge. I'll amend my motion to amend the charge to be a simple majority, just cross out the number. Originally, we talked about having 7, I think, and we thought this is a small project and we just don't want to overcomplicate it, so we went with 5.
I had a question about the jurisdiction of this building committee. Is this building committee also overseeing the extension of the bays? Or
Yes,
is this committee just focused on that
It's
operation?
the whole project.
that's the whole project.
So the current base.
No.
No, the new
Just-
ones that are
So
being
just
added.
the additions going up next to the firehouse.
Um,
Yeah.
Peggy, I'm just wondering whether the title of this is a little too narrow. It implies that this is a building committee only focused on the emergency operations center. Am I being too picky here?
No, I think that's,
It's a
No, we
fair
could
call
say,
out.
yeah, we could
it's
say,
an
well,
optics thing, yeah.
we could say emergency operations and firehouse extension. So another amendment I'm adding to the building charge. We can say that. I know, I think there is some confusion in the public that, I guess the way I looked at it, you can't have the EOC without the base, because it's they're on top of it. But the grant was, the reason we got the grant is because the emergency operations is
Sure,
part of the
sure,
project.
yeah.
So I think that's why we're always highlighting the EOC, but we can amend it to say emergency operations and firehouse extension.
I think that's good, because then it's, not, people aren't thinking it's just a conversion of an existing space.
Right.
That there is bigger construction
Okay.
project going on there.
Thank you.
So I will amend my motion to add those 2 changes to the charge. Can I get a second on that?
Oh, second.
Okay, any further discussion? No? And Jacqueline, you got those changes, right?
Yep, I got it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, all right, with that, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. All right, excellent. So you got and then we'll just come back with the names. We'll do it quickly at our street planning thing. We'll just have a quick vote on those. Excellent. I think that's it for you guys then. Now we're moving on to the town campus. Upgrades, yes. Yeah, I think that's, and it's just so you know, before we get into the project, the reason we're doing committees is that they're gonna be applying, the school wants to apply for a new grant program that came out for the state for HVAC projects. It just came out, and they need to have, you have to have a building committee, you have to have like a certain resolution. So that's why we pulled this together really quickly. Normally, we wouldn't do this for these projects, but in order to qualify, you have to have a building committee for these, so.
That's specific to number 14. for
And
the
15, yeah, that's why
Okay.
we put those together, because normally, remember, we decided we weren't gonna do any official building committee.
Yeah,
And the Daniel Hand one is just a normal, project that we would do to upgrade the system and stuff, so that's why that's on there, and we can talk more about that, but I just wanted to flag that.
okay, yeah, because I was gonna ask about that.
So, but item number 13, let's get back to item number 13, is a discussion of the town campus HVAC upgrades, and I've invited, so Bill McMinn should be joining us, and then Blair, who has been helping us on geothermal projects, so I think the history of this project is back in 2017, the town made a decision that it wanted to do geothermal for this building, right? This is pre when I was, so, but we had about $500,000 budgeted for this thing. As it progressed, through, we came up with another budget as some more information was pulled together. And the price jumped, I think then we had in CIP 1.1 million. And then, so we had about 1.1 million, and that was based on the DRA facilities assessment. So we put it into CIP for 1.1 million. That was in 2021. Then in October, we went and said, let's fund it through ARPA. That was a board decision. We said, let's just jumpstart this because now the budget had doubled, more than doubled, from the original CIP number. And so we moved to fund it through ARPA, and added additional funds. Then in the beginning of this year, Bill hired a professional to come up with a real cost estimate. And that came back at over $2 million. So now keep in mind though, there's also all these rebates that are being offered for this through the federal tax program. So the thinking was, well, we're gonna get the rebates, so we're fine. So then he went out to bid in July and the bids came back even higher than the 2 million. So this is what we're seeing in a lot of different areas, that things are escalating. And so now the project is, in order to move forward, is requiring roughly $2.4 million. But once again, those tax incentives are there. So,
And are those guaranteed?
so that's what I think we're gonna talk about. So we have kind of two options about how to move this forward, but I think, you know, if we were to move forward, we can't move forward until we appropriate, so the full budget's there, because, and then we get our money back a year later from the federal government. We have to spend the money and then we would get reimbursed. So that would require us to do an appropriation of roughly $800,000 if we went with one of the bidders that bid this summer. The other option potentially could be is to try to have the our contractor get the benefits of the tax credits. But they're not gonna value them at the same level that we would. We wouldn't get $1 for every tax credit to the dollar reduction in the project. They would probably only give us maybe 50 cents on the dollar. So we would kind of lose out in that sense. So I think let's have Bill talk a little bit more about it. And then Blair has some experience. He's actually been seeing projects where people are getting these tax benefits from the federal government. So they are happening, but it's new. And he can talk a little bit about the process and how that would work on this project. So Bill, did I butcher that summary?
No, I think you gave it a great summary. Just to point out, when we did the final design, we did do a final estimate, and that's when I'm gonna round up 2.1 million estimate came in March. And, we anticipated about $1 million worth of IRS and Eversource rebates. So between the funding that we had in place and the $1 million worth of other funding that we were gonna get, I still thought the project was gonna be successful and we could get it done. I think that the unfortunate part is we can't award based on funding we're going to get from other sources. We had to have the money in the banks, let's say. We know we're going to get the funds, but we believe we're going to get the funds, but we can't award a contract on funds that we believe are coming in from the IRS or the Eversource. So we have a lot of experience with the Eversource funding, but we don't have that much experience with the IRS one. And Blair has had experience with it. So, there's two ways. And it's new that the government can get IRS funding because we're not a tax entity. That's relatively new, that they'll give us a check for the amount. Once the project's done and completed, we just fill out a form and it's like when you get your taxes back at the end of you apply for your tax rebate, you fill out the form, you get the money back. Now, could they audit us and could they say that we didn't spend the money according to the rules and maybe not get the whole million? We only get 900,000. Those are things that, are potential. So, I think that there is some risk if we do go with the contractor, which is, we asked him if he would consider that, and he said yes, and we're still working on that avenue, but it's not favorable to us because we will lose some of that funding because the contractor is going to have to take risk and he's going to not be able to apply for his tax benefits until he applies for his taxes.
And it's gonna
So
be-
Blair, help me out. Anything I missed, Blair,
See,
relative?
the contractor's gonna take more, he's gonna have to do all the paperwork.
I'll cut to the end and say I'm not a big fan of leveraging the contractor
Yeah.
at all. I don't need to spend a lot of time discussing it.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, I just wanted to leave that as an option if we didn't want to appropriate, but, obviously we're,
So
Yeah.
can we talk a little, is Stacy on?
No,
No. We just proactively funded the CIP to the tune of about 3.5 million. This just feels like a time shift of money.
Mhm.
We've overfunded is the right word. We've proactively
We planned.
funded CIP
Yeah.
with 3.5 million. Why don't we just designate the money out of that and it comes back into that fund a year later or whenever the project's done? We don't even have to do an appropriation.
Because it's planned.
It's
Because
already-
that's there for all kinds of projects to make CIP be fully funded every year, like if you were
But,
to
but,
pull
but,
that
but,
out.
but they're not all expected to be funded in year one. In other words, they're not gonna be scheduled for spending in this next fiscal year. They're going to be scheduled for spending in out years. If according to plan, it would be out 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that money would long since have been returned to the fund by then.
You will, this is like, I think, so we look at 5-year cash flows, right?
Right.
So you're basically taking a chunk of money out of those cash flows and saying, it's okay if we have a negative balance in 1 year because it's gonna come back in later.
But you wouldn't have a negative balance, you would,
You
Because we
will,
injected it with funds.
no, but you wouldn't, no, but that 3.5 is still carrying a lot of other projects. I'm just saying, I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that, you basically are borrowing against CIP, right? Rather than using borrowing against the fund balance, you're borrowing from the CIP fund. That's what you're doing, right? You're either taking it from, you can take it from the fund balance, right? And then replace it later.
you
Or
can.
you're saying pull it out of CIP, but CIP has so many moving parts.
But is that 3.5 million committed to be deployed in this upcoming budget cycle?
Not all of it, I don't think. I have to look at how the cash
If-
flows are. I don't, off the top of my head, that's one of the things she's gonna be on later, actually, for the CIP discussion, so.
Lily's raising his
Yeah,
hand.
Bill?
I stand corrected. Stacy texted me. She's on.
Oh, okay,
Ah.
all right.
So we can promote her and you can ask her questions.
Uh,
Are we doing that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's Jacqueline.
She said she was on. She corrected me, so,
I don't, oh, maybe I can do it. Let me see.
Oh, she's
no,
doing.
no, Jacqueline, there she is.
From here.
Sorry, I was trying to text the right person to say that I was on.
Sure shouldn't have been me.
Yeah, so there is a balance in the salary fund, and we did infuse the 3.5 million in there. But the plan was with our Madison investment plan to build up that fund balance and reduce funding going forward in the next upcoming years. So yes, it's not designated for any specific project, but I wouldn't want to dip into that for this project, knowing that we are going to reduce funding to absorb the debt in the budget in order to fund future projects. So yes, the balance is in there, but I wouldn't recommend, taking it specifically for this project.
I think it would just require, we're looking at a 5-year plan, it would require a lot of, how we would manage the planning of this, right, Stacy? And we'd have to show an infusion of $800,000, I guess, in a year's time, right?
Yeah, that 3.5 million, it was a plan,
Yeah.
looking at how we're funding the CIP over the next 5 years, looking at the debt coming on board, anticipating this increase of the 700,000 for this specific project. So I would say that this would be over and above the money that we're already putting into the CNRE fund.
But why not treat the promise of the refunded money the same way we treat expected grants that we don't have yet? The funding source could be accounted for.
We
We-
have offsets in CIP.
Yeah, we certainly could, Bruce. I mean, we could put it as a grant offset. The problem is, what if, as Bill said, what if, there's unallowable costs? What if it takes longer than expected? We like to have a project fully funded before we actually begin it. So with the 5-year plan, if we have a project in there and we applied for a grant, we don't know if we're getting the grant. If it's out in years 2 through 5, we will offset it if we're only doing the project if we get the grant funds in. If we're going to do the project, whether or not we get the grant funds in, we wouldn't offset it. So I think we just want to make sure that the funds are available before we commit to this. I mean, this is a project that is ready to go. So we don't want to count on grant monies at this point because it will take time to know if we're actually going to get it. And we want to do the project no matter what.
Is the better option than to take from the undesignated fund balance?
Well,
Yeah, I
it's,
think
it's,
that's what we're saying.
it's an
It-
option,
it-
right?
Yeah,
It's an
I-
option.
yeah.
So the 3.5 million, is it assigned to specific projects?
It is not. It was infused into the CNRE fund, hoping that within future years, we can reduce the amount that we're budgeting into the CNRE fund because we infuse this money. So it's helping the overall funding into CIP. It's not dedicated for any specific project, but the thought was by infusing that money in here as debt comes in the next few years, we can reduce the funding. And that was the whole rationale behind the Madison investment plan and the 3.5 million.
So the way I'm thinking of this, it doesn't adversely impact that plan at all. It would only impact it if it affected a project that 3.5 million was going to be used against and prevented us from doing that.
Well,
That I would never advocate for.
well, no, but it does impact we can't predict the timing of, because the 800,000, we're saying we need the $1 million that we should be getting back, right? We don't know exactly when it's come
different fiscal
in,
year.
right? So what if it moves out another year, it comes at the end of, 2025 or 2026? We're stuck next year and we've got not enough money to fund other projects, right? Because there's basically a big balance. So 3.5 million went into a pool of money and every year you're drawing down for all these different projects in CNRE. So it just might mean that we would be short next year or the following year. And I guess we could then just appropriate then and put it into CNRE.
Pay now, pay later.
Yeah, I just look at it as, borrow, you're borrowing ahead. Now, and we do this a lot for grants anyways. We've appropriated other things knowing that we're gonna get a grant, right, Stacy? We've pre-funded things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the one difference
Yeah,
is if we take the special appropriation route and do it that way, the money would come back into the general fund. If we did it my way, the money would go back into CNRE. So it would be capital for capital.
Stays.
We-
It would-
but then we can just appropriate it into the CIP.
And we could, Bruce, because the project was paid for out of the CNRE, we could at that point in time designate it to go back into the CNRE. That we have done that before.
Yeah, we
But
could
we
do that
don't.
through the
Yeah.
appropriation, right? Because the other times we've talked about this, that had to do with bonding, so that was totally different. It had to go back for debt repayment, right? No matter what, right? It had to go to pay down the debt because of the way the bonding resolution. Here, we could actually do the appropriation and we could say that the return funds have to go to CNRE.
So
Yeah.
what is the criteria for using the 3.5 million?
There's no, it's just, it's like, it just infused in so that the money allocated to the overall CIP plan has enough money to fund
For
the
planned
program every year.
projects.
But this is a planned project.
Right, but this is monies above the planned project.
Right, but how is
above
that
the
any different
budget.
than a
This is
new project?
this is unplanned of the
So-
plan.
Yeah, but there's-
But the new projects are unplanned until they're in the project.
Yeah.
and-
Well, but if you, I'm
In
just
theory,
looking
you
at it
install a project,
simplistically,
too.
like there's a whole cash flow with annual money allocated to different projects budgeted for it, and that is being funded by this pool of money at the bottom, right? So
That's-
we need 50,000 for this project, 200,000 for this, it's all coming from this pool that the 3.5 million went into.
I guess to your point, Bruce, the reality is it's about priorities and in theory, we could delay a project too. That if this is higher
Yeah.
priority than something else, then maybe something could drop so that the monies are there and part of the 3.5 is used for this. So
But it doesn't sound like we have to delay anything.
Well, no, but I would argue, and this is where we'll talk a little bit later, you know, the next couple of years, you know, there's a crunch that's happening.
But the
And
incremental
that's
is
why
2.4,
that 3.5
right?
million.
The incremental is 2.4.
Well, there's already a budgeted
No.
1 point something.
We need 800,000 appropriated, and we'll get back $1 million.
Right.
If we do this all ourselves, that's, you know, roughly, right? $800,000, so we can go ahead and proceed on the project. And then when we do all the paperwork, we could get at least $1 million. I know, Bill, you had talked about several ranges, so.
I'd say
Range was-
conservatively $1 million between Eversource grant, between Eversource incentive and the IRS incentive or the tax credit. Conservatively, $1 million is what we should expect.
So,
Yeah.
let me be
Yeah.
clear. I'm in no way arguing against us
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
the geothermal.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
It's what's the most efficient way to fund it.
Right.
It's in the CIP, there's money, excess funds in the CIP that could be allocated against it. They're all gonna come back and replenish it, and it all, to my mind, flows very efficiently.
Well, let me ask
And it's in the right
Stacy
place.
this, well, so this project, if we were to move forward, would it be funded in this fiscal year? What's the timing on funding the project fiscal year wise, Bill?
So if we don't move right now, I don't know if the contractor will hold the numbers because
Yeah.
it's been a while. I mean, we were talking to him about other ideas and other avenues of the funding. So, I mean, I'd love you guys to make the motion for the 800,000 tonight to go to the Board of Finance at their next meeting and have whatever else we need to do to get the funding approved.
That's a town meeting.
I know, well, no, I was recommending you go to Board of Finance, then we'll do Board of Selectmen and have a town meeting.
Right.
Why can't we do the Board of
If we
Selectmen
just
tonight?
allocate the money within the CIP,
I feel like
Can
within the
we do
CIP
that?
is cleaner.
You don't
I
have to,
just
you don't
don't
have to
think
if it's within the town, then CIP.
that's what I'm saying.
If you guys are in favor of doing it, why can't we do it tonight, move to the Board of Finance and get this project moving?
So Stacy, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I guess we just did it between projects on another thing, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I know Stacy and I are like, because we've got to pull together a 5-year plan, and this puts a hole that we're gonna have to like hold, you know? So it's from a planning standpoint, it's not ideal. From an efficiency standpoint, I see your point. Stacy, to move money, more money within CNRE to this project, what would that require? Like just
Yeah.
Selectmen Board of Finance?
Yeah, it would, but I wouldn't recommend it, because again, that 3.5 million was infused into the CIP, knowing that we need to build up those balances and reduce future years' budgets. This 800,000 was not part of that plan. We needed that 3.5 million infused there so that we can continue to fund CIP at a reduced level to be in line with the debt coming on board and still commit to all of the projects within the next 5 years. This would throw the whole MIP plan out of whack. It really would. It was not part of the original plan that we put
So,
together.
okay, let me answer this, Stacy, because this is more of a timing issue to keep to the bids that we have.
Yep.
We can still then do an infusion in a month's time, right? To make up for the 800 we're taking out now.
So I would think, and I'm talking off the cuff here, I would think it would be both boards and a town meeting because it still is a special appropriation out of CNRE versus the undesignated fund balance. We have done that in the past. So I would think we would still need the 3 levels.
But they're pulling money
Out of fund. Well, no, but
Yeah.
this is a project in CIP.
It's a project in
Yeah, and we
CRE
put
with
money
funding
between
in the
projects
CRE.
before.
Right, and we'll be getting the rebates that could just go right back into that fund. It doesn't.
Well,
right,
and
we can
what-
designate it as that.
What Peggy was saying is that if we did need to reinfuse the 800,000, we could do that as a separate path
Mhm.
that doesn't get Billy off of his path for getting commitments out of the.
Which really, we would need to do that and, because we're doing CIP now, right? The CIP committee is meeting in December. So they would need that money, I would argue. we would need to consider doing that like in December, because that's when they're gonna be laying out the 5-year plan, and they're gonna have a hole.
Mhm.
And if there's no easy way to shuffle things around,
Mhm.
you wanna plan the balance, and you wanna make sure the balances are there, so we could look at CIP and then say, okay, we're gonna infuse another 800,000, and that process would then go Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting.
But the one thing we haven't discussed, which could go back to CIP, is just delaying a project, which then frees up money,
Right,
the money that's already there.
Right,
So
Yeah,
if,
but what
if,
do you-
again, if this is a higher priority project than other things, we
yeah.
would play the
but-
prioritization game.
yeah, because I mean, that's what everybody has to do, right? I mean, we have to pick and choose
Live within your
sometimes
means.
about what is the most important.
I would,
Well,
I'm gonna climb out on
yeah.
a limb and say that this
Yeah.
discussion, it probably doesn't require any sacrifice on any other projects at this point. If we were maybe deeper into the spending of that money, it might be, or we were in process on spending some of that money. But I think Stacy brought up an important point. This was a prepayment so that future annual contributions could be lower.
Right,
Mhm.
right, and so
That's
then-
what, that's what
Infusion.
she's,
That's the
Right.
point of an
that's what
infusion.
she's talking about. So she's not expecting that this year's line item in the budget will be
It's not free money, it's
the
not money to
same
be
as,
used.
the same as,
Yeah.
as prior years.
It just means we would that either have to infuse more to make up for it, or we would have to raise in future budgets, what we contribute to CIP.
We were anticipating a negative slide, so this is in essence to cover that,
Yeah,
right,
right.
longer term.
I guess where I'm getting lost though, we're getting rebate money back. I
We
mean,
are.
right, so
It's a
why?
timing issue, we have to
Timing and
look at,
not guaranteed.
yeah, right, and so that's why
Well,
you,
I think
that
there's
money,
more
when we got
guarantees
the
as how
rebates, that
much.
was gonna go
Right.
back into the
Yeah.
general fund, so we're just borrowing against the general fund so we get the rebates back. But this way, we don't have to worry about CIP getting off kilter because of the timing. It could take 12 months, it could take 18 months, it could take 2 years before we actually get the money back.
All right, what are our options?
Well, but if we have to go the special appropriation route now, we're looking at November.
Right.
For
That's
a
out.
decision.
And how does that affect
And that-
you, Billy?
And that's still, yeah.
Big time.
So the question is, does allocating it out of the CNRE allow the decision to happen right away? As, you know, after the Board of
I think the
Finance?
answer is
Board of
yes.
Finance.
And that, I don't know that we can answer tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely both boards, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, but I'm borderline between a town meeting. It's still in my eyes right now, it's still a special appropriation, even though it's out of CNRE versus undesignated fund balance. And the old charter did say that any special appropriation from fund balance or other sources would have to go to town meeting. I'd have to look at the town charter, the revision.
But this is a project in CNRE, though, that's where I look at it differently, you know? Because we approve moving money from one vehicle to another vehicle, it's all within the same account, right? We talked about that today, that doesn't have to go to town meeting. So that's what we're doing, we're just kind of shuffling it around.
But it's a big number. It's over the 250,000 mark. I don't know. I don't know the answer if we have to go to town meeting or not.
Well, why don't we do
We
this?
could always
then?
do a
So,
special meeting if we had to, though,
yeah, I think,
once we have the options laid out.
I think that the first question is, so we want to figure out a way to get this moving and get the funds to cover it. We would prefer to make it, you know, if we had to go the town meeting route, it's just he's gonna have to convince the vendor, right, to keep the bids. It would be official in November with the town meeting. But you would at least have, if, you know, you would have our boards in October approving it. So would that be good enough? So why don't we investigate all this? And then we'll come back either through a special meeting or at our October meeting
Yes.
with a recommendation. Does that make sense?
50.
Yep.
Okay, but that's just appropriation, right? So this
Specials,
is,
appropriations and transfers.
So it's both.
yeah, but when, I guess I'm looking at it, it's all one fund, though, that's the projects within a fund. So if we were going like CNRE to the ambulance, that would be a transfer.
As
But we're
opposed to
going all within
CNRE.
Yeah.
Right,
CNRE
so
to
it
CNRE.
really is, that, our whole planning tool is just kind of
Here's one
earmarking.
specifically for CIP.
to another approved project in an amount not to exceed. Oh, no, okay, you're right, so this charter does specify, so Board of Finance on request from Board of Selectmen may transfer. Hopefully, unexpended pass. Oh, that's unexpended.
Oh, unextended, okay.
Yeah, so what we won't have, we don't have an answer now, but so we will come back with some options and figure out what's gonna work the best.
Peggy, I think one more piece of information this board needs is whether or not other projects might be delayed
Because of that, right?
because of that.
Right.
As someone who sits on the CIP, I know how exquisitely, delicately balanced all of these projects are in terms of where they're lined up and when they're funded. So I think we should have that information before we make a decision. Is it possible other projects would get delayed?
Okay, yeah, we'll look at all that, and I just also want to comment again. We have over $20 million in the undesignated fund balance, so, you know, I feel like we're going through all these gymnastics when it'd be very easy, we borrow from the undesignated fund balance, and then when we get the rebates back, it goes back into the undesignated fund balance. Or we could specify it to go into CIP if we wanted to.
You're
do
basically
that
borrowing
anyway.
from yourselves.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think we're probably gonna have to do a town meeting possibly under the new charter anyway, so it would seem to make more sense to do the undesignated.
Yeah.
But we'll come back and explore it. So, okay, great. No, good conversation.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, Bill, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
And I just wanted Blair also to do, I did want to check one box because we had a lot of conversation about Polson and HVAC. This was designated in 2017 or geothermal. He also recommends geothermal for this building. So it wasn't like, we are gonna get a payback from this very much earlier than what had been discussed at Polson. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely the right call for this building. So just want to highlight that. Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Bill and Blair and Stacy. We'll talk more tomorrow, Stacy, okay? And Felicia. Thank you, Felicia.
Felicia's staying. Blair, you can leave. Felicia's staying for the next two.
Oh.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Blair.
Okay, so Bill, on these, I prepped them to mention that normally we would not have had building committees for this, but because you are applying for a grant, so if you could talk about that grant for a minute. And
I'd be
then,
happy to.
okay, and then I've got to amend these motions. So to add in a resolution, which is, it's all in the charge, but I was asked to put it in the motion as well as who's getting appointed. So, so I'm wondering if we could just have discussion first before I do that, or do you want me to read the motions? We can just have discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and explain the grants or
Sure.
the
So-
building committee purpose and the grants.
In September this month, there's an HVAC indoor air quality grant program for public schools has come out. So that's why the urgency. It came out this month, and the deadline to apply is December of this year. So we have to put together a building committee. It has to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, just like any other grant application for the new school, for roof projects that we've done in the past. An official building committee has to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The resolutions have to be passed, that I believe I've, outlined in your packet, so that it's the board, so that the state can then award the grant and give us the funds. We have to, cross the Ts and dot the Is. So, and it's a very quick process. The superintendent, asked me, and Felicia's assisting me with the application. It's not a simple application. It's a little bit of a cumbersome. Blair is also helping with the technical part of it. So we have a good team here. And I've met with the superintendent a couple times, to make sure that we get this going. There's no guarantee. This is a grant application based on a bunch of different criteria. And we're going to do our best to process the grant and meet those criteria.
Okay, well, I do want to highlight that the high school HVAC is one of those that's funded next year. It's like a $3 million project at CIP. So that's one of the things why we got to make sure that the funding and everything is going to be available. Because this is a priority. They keep failing. They've had a lot of emergencies with it. So why don't I'll just read item number 14. I'm going to amend the motion to discuss and take action to approve the charge and resolution for the Daniel Hand High School Building Project Committee and to appoint the following members. Emily Rosenthal, Board of Education member, Galen Hawley, Board of Education Vice Chair, and Jean Fitzgerald, Board of Finance Vice Chair. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, further discussion is basically, so this is, like I said, we just need to do this for the, so the charge you received has all this in it, but they just wanted it as a motion too. Any other questions?
My intention is to have one building committee, but the motions have to be separate for each project. And
Right.
we might get the funding for one and not the other, so we need to keep them separate.
Have these individuals indicated they would accept this appointment?
Yes,
Yeah, and normally.
Bill.
I know. And normally this would be handled with the facilities committee, right, for the Board of Ed anyway,
Right,
so.
yeah, and that was one of my
Yeah.
questions when I first
Yeah.
received this, but Billy answered it. I was like, why do we need a whole nother
Yeah,
committee for this? But it's for the purpose of getting through the grant program, so.
that's
and
correct.
you have one non-BOE person on it, so.
We
I
will
guess-
keep the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education in the loop at all times. They will, Board of Selectmen and Board of Education, the Board of Education will have to be part of the grant process as well, but we need the official committee appointed by your board to make it happen.
The grant money comes to the town, not to the Board of Ed, right?
Help me out, Stacy. I think the answer is yes, but I can't, yes, I think the answer is yes. I'm 90% on that one. Or no, I think it goes to Felicia. No,
She
it
just
goes
gets
to
a
the town of
10%
Madison.
commission.
All funding goes to the town. I don't think there's any money that goes, I'm not that comfortable answering that one.
Casey's here.
Stacy's muted.
There you go. Thank you, Stacy.
Oh, and we will have the opportunity to vote to accept a grant. It has to come to, our board.
It's just a fine
Yeah,
point. Does the money come
right.
back to the
Yeah.
Board of Ed or does it come back to the
We
town?
use it to fund the building project here.
Yeah. Okay, Stacy's muted, but I think I'll just go ahead and do item number 15, discuss and take action to approve the charge and resolution for the Polson Middle School Building Project Committee and to appoint the following members: Emily Rosenthal, Board of Education member, Galen Foley, Board of Education Vice Chair, and Jean Fitzgerald, Board of Finance Vice Chair. Second?
Second?
Okay, so same thing, just it would be awesome to get that. Now, Polson will require it to be a reduction in the grant or in the bonding resolution. Because that's required, all grants have to be subtracted from bonding. So if we get that grant, I mean, if there's, it doesn't go to the general fund, it has to go to that because this project is.
But it's swap and paint.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying though, just to highlight how it's a little different because it was a bonded project. Any other questions?
No, I just, I have pretty strong feelings about the Polson HVAC program. I certainly don't want to get in the way of this. I think this is a fabulous opportunity for the town and the taxpayers to save money on the project, but I am going to abstain because this is a project moving forward that I'm really unhappy with.
Okay. So I guess all in favor, say
Abstain or
aye.
no?
Oh, actually, did I
No,
vote on
abstain.
14? Okay, let's vote on 14 first. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
And I'm going to abstain.
Okay, no, 14.
I
I
thought we
forgot I
voted on
didn't
that.
vote on that.
No, we didn't vote on.
Yeah,
okay,
so-
one yet.
All in favor of 14, which is just the Daniel Hand project.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, right, okay. No abstentions, motion passes. Okay, now, voting on number 15, as I read earlier, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And one
I'll
abstention,
abstain.
and, so motion passes. And your abstention is related to you wanted Geo, right?
Correct.
Right, okay, yep, got it, I get it. Okay, great. Okay, good, Bill, so you got that done. Thank you, Bill and Felicia. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be getting some more money in there. Do you know
Great.
how much the grant awards could be? Do you have any?
No, I don't.
No, okay. But we'll be first in line, for sure. Okay, item number 16, discuss and
Thank
take
you.
possible action to approve the proposed citation ordinance. Make it a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay, great. So we actually, at the public hearing, did get some comments from staff member. that were pretty minor, but there was one thing we wanted to get clarified. So my recommendation is that we table it until the next meeting and we can, well, actually, how do we do that if we want to amend it before we vote on it? Can we revise?
These were editorial.
Yeah, they were editorial.
changes,
We don't have to have a public hearing.
So we
for
wouldn't
sure,
need to,
no.
we wouldn't
No.
need to come back to a public.
No, I'm just more in terms of what we're doing. If we table it, it tables the draft ordinance, right? Can we just come back with a revision at the next meeting, Jacqueline?
Yes, I would just table it.
Okay, all right, so we will table item number 16 to the next meeting. There's no rush on this, so. Item number 17 is discuss next step for the strategic plan process. The reason I wanted to bring this up is we talked about at the SPAC meeting about when are we going to basically have a public hearing for this? And our board is meeting on the 14th, I think it is, in the morning for drafting session.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're gonna need more than one of those before we're happy sending it to a public hearing. And so if that's the case, we would then send it, we would have the next time we would make some more comments would be at our October 23rd meeting. In which case we would then send it to public hearing. So the public hearing is going to be probably, like, I would argue the second week of November probably. And then I know we have an election in between that. But I know this board wanted to still together, finish this, right? No matter what happens with the election, we're actually seated until after Thanksgiving. So that would still give us an opportunity to vote at our last meeting as this board in November, even if we hold a public hearing in November. So I thought that would be I just wanted to clear that. I think that works well. That way we wanted, since we started this process, to finish it. So it still gives us time to do that. Because I think originally the idea was to have the public hearing in October, but I just think we want to take our time to do this, right? We don't want to rush it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So just wanted to clarify that. So that's what we'll target. And then we just got to line up something with our consultants about when they would be here for the public hearing. So we'll get that ironed out. Okay? So that's that for that. And then 18 is really, I wanted to update you on, normally we have a workshop on CIP, our board, before I put the final package together that gets submitted to the committee. That deadline is October 15th. We're probably a little behind on this. I still need to meet with the schools. They've kind of finished their process, but they're definitely gonna have to make some shuffling perhaps, and I just want to talk to them about that. We still have work on the town side. And this year we're not adding a lot of new projects. There's hardly any new projects for the town at all. But I think it's trying to, last year we had ARPA coming in, we had a lot of moving parts and things going in. This will be pretty straightforward. But I don't know, in order to have this board involved prior to when I complete the transmittal by October 15th, we'd have to have a special meeting. So I'm asking if it's not a normal part of the process. We kind of did it in practice the last couple of years. We had those workshops. So if you want to have a special meeting, we'll do it, but it'll have to be before October 15th. Or you can just say, do your thing. It's my letter transmitting to the committee, and then this board gets to review it as part of CIP and the normal budget process. So there's not going to be a lot of changing on the town side at all. It's just shuffling things around.
We still have a bite at the apple at some point anyways.
Yes. So.
We do. If there was an executive summary, one or two pager of these are the ads and the years that they're in. I mean, assuming it's not 11:59 on the 14th.
Which is usually when
you're doing that.
I think that it was probably, it's small, there's no major, it's more shifting. To be honest, on the town side, to your point, we have to make the numbers work, so we're pushing stuff out. We prioritize certain things and we've said, okay, this just gets pushed out another year. We do that all the time. Because you have a balance at the end and you have to make sure that you have the funding available. So we've been doing a lot of shifting. The school kind of came back with some stuff that had been shifted, but they kind of moved it a little bit more forward than what we were expecting. So I need to have those conversations because they don't see in fairness to them, they don't see the whole picture, they don't see the balances, right?
Right.
So now they have to say, oh, okay, maybe that's not gonna work that year, so we have to have those conversations with them.
So we're doing a little bit of work for them already.
Yeah.
We're doing a little bit of work.
Yeah, no, we're doing a lot to help, but last year, one of the ways to make their plan work was we were able to pull the tennis courts out, for example, and use ARPA. So we don't have that ability this year.
Well, it's back to normal.
Yeah, it's back to normal, right, exactly. And so we always do prioritize, and we always should, when we start shifting, so there's like a lot of little things that we just started saying, you know what? Nice, we would love to do this, but it's, this other stuff is a priority, so. So what I'll do is I can do that, I can send out a note maybe next week to the board, just highlighting kind of changes. And then if you feel like you still need to see everything, because once again, this is really procedure just to get it to CIP, and then you guys have an opportunity to review it, so, okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, and then with that, I think, any citizens' comments?
We still have some hanging in there.
No hands are raised.
All right, well, hearing no objection, then, motion to adjourn.
So we'll-
All right.